I saw it myself, the way the air in the sanctuary seemed to vibrate between them. Silas stood so close to her that I could hear the quick, shallow rhythm of his breathing over the steady, mechanical thud of the life support generators. His hand was hovering just inches from her temple, right where the delicate, iridescent scales of her crest met the warmth of her skin. I remember the look on his face. It wasn't fear exactly, but a kind of raw, terrifying honesty that made my own chest ache just watching it. He was offering her his heart on a plate, and in that pressurized room, with the smell of ozone and crushed flowers, it felt like the most dangerous thing any human had ever done. Truth is, I don't think they even noticed me standing there in the corner, a witness to a moment that shouldn't have existed. But look, it wasn't always that intense. A few hours before that, we were all drowning in the spire of glass. If you've never been, it's all sharp, obsidian-carved walls and floors so polished you can see your own nerves reflected in them. Prelate Vaughn was talking, again, about resource allocation reports and the trade of silicate minerals. It was mind-numbing stuff. I was standing by the entrance trying to blend into the architecture, watching Silas endure it. He stood perfectly still, his dress uniform buttoned tight enough to choke him, looking every bit the dutiful Archon. But I knew him. I saw the way his jaw was clenched, a tiny muscle jumping in his cheek, revealing the internal scars of a man who had spent too many years being a weapon instead of a person. The matriarch, Xylari, was even worse off. To the rest of the court, she looked like a statue of ice and authority. But I've spent enough time around the Xylari to know how to read the crests. Hers were shifting, a dull, flat gray color that spoke of a boredom so deep it was practically physical pain. She wasn't listening to Vaughn. She was looking at the way the light caught the dust motes in the air, her fingers drumming a silent, impatient beat on the arm of her throne. I don't know. Maybe she was just tired of the masks everyone wore. Truth is, I don't think she expected Silas to be paying attention. Most humans are too busy being intimidated by her height or her guards. But Silas was watching her crest. He saw the shift to that slate gray color, and he knew she was reaching a breaking point. Then she just snapped. She cut Vaughn off mid-syllable, her voice echoing through the spire like a cracking whip. She demanded entertainment. She challenged Silas right there in front of the whole hostile nobility to define human attraction. She wanted to mock him, I think. She wanted to see him squirm under the weight of her gaze and the heavy decisions they both had to make. I'll never forget the way the room went still. Silas didn't reach for his diplomatic notes. He didn't look at the guards. He just stepped forward, his boots clicking on the obsidian, and said he found her beautiful. Not the room, not the spire, but her. I saw Vaughn's face turn a pale shade of green, and for a second, I thought we were all going to be executed. But then I saw Xylari's crests. They didn't go gray. They flared a sudden, brilliant crimson. And that's when I knew we weren't just talking about minerals anymore. Though I watched her corner him in that lunar sanctuary later that night, the moonlight through the reinforced glass, making her scales look like liquid silver. She was aggressive. Maybe she was just terrified of being seen for who she actually was. She asked him if it was a trick, some kind of elaborate human lie to gain an edge in the negotiations. I saw Silas take a step closer, close enough that the low hum of the ship's engines seemed to vibrate right through both of them. He didn't blink. He told her about the way she looked when she thought no one was watching, how she touched the edge of a holographic map with a kind of weary tenderness, or how her crest would flutter when she spoke of her people's future. It wasn't about her face or the way she moved. It was about the weight she carried. Why, I remember the way her lower lip trembled for just a second before she pulled back. She wasn't used to being known. Then came the formal banquet. The nobility were practically vibrating with hostility, their crests a sharp, jagged orange that hurt to look at. Truth is, I thought Silas was done for when he stood up in the middle of the feast, but he didn't falter. He invoked Essence Sight, an old sacred Xylari thing I didn't even know a human was allowed to mention, let alone understand. He stood there in the center of that massive hall surrounded by enemies, and he looked at her like she was the only fixed point in a spinning universe. He didn't just say he wanted her. He said he recognized her soul. The room went so quiet you could hear the electrical pulse of the lighting rigs. I saw Prelate Vaughn's jaw drop. It was a gamble. A huge one. But when Kailara stood up and lowered her head in a slow, deliberate acknowledgement, the air in the room just changed. The hostility didn't vanish, but it turned into something else. Curiosity, maybe, or a weird kind of respect. After the chaos of the announcement, they found a quiet moment in the bioluminescent gardens. The plants there glow blue and green, pulsing like a slow heartbeat, and the air smells like rain and static. I stayed back, watching from the bridge, keeping my distance. They were standing near a fountain, their figures blurred by the mist. I saw her reach out, really reach out this time, and touch the side of his neck. Silas leaned into it, his eyes closing, and I swear I could feel the electric spark of skin meeting scale from across the path. I could hear the thud of his heart through the quiet. Or maybe it was mine. The stinging behind my eyes told me I was watching something that shouldn't be possible. It was a mess, honestly. The politics were a disaster, and the biological hurdles were high enough to make any doctor quit, but they didn't seem to care. She signed the peace accord right there on a stone bench, her hands steady and sure. And when she announced him as her chosen partner to the rest of the court, well, I've seen a lot of things in my time, but I've never seen a victory quite like that. It wasn't a war won, it was a bridge built out of nothing but raw, bleeding truth. Look, I don't know what comes next for them, but I know what I saw. I saw two souls stop pretending, and that's enough for me.